Okay, well, we're here. Hey, everyone, welcome to the Gundam Explained show. I am Adam Blue. This is the Gundam Explained HQ. Oh, Johnny Tacoma, on time for lunch. That's great. No, good to see everybody. Again, I'm your host, Adam Blue, and joining me at it. You know what, guys? I try something new and then I screw it up. You know, isn't that just the name of the game? Okay. Joining me, as always, is Steven from Midnight Hatter. Steven, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? I mean, I gotta look. I love that angled view of your workspace, and it's nice. That's like the establishing shot of the Enterprise bridge right there. You get to see where all the action happens. You see, the scattered mobile suit parts across the desk. It's beautiful.
Dude, well, thanks. Yeah, I love it. Like the other day, and I even have it up for supporters. Like I did like a behind the scenes of me rearranging the office, and I was like, man, it would be good to get a wide shot. I actually got that idea from another YouTuber, Robert Meyer Burnett, who does movie stuff, and he would start his stream because he has way more collectibles than me. He would start his stream with a wide shot of his, and I could just see, oh man, this guy is into this stuff, and then he'd start the show. Yeah, I want to start doing that. Kind of like I was telling you, up the production value or the perceived production value, and that goes with having, by the end of the episodes, the show, well, I'll start doing some news topics to kind of cap off, the show.
Heck yeah, man. I got to talk to my buddy Ben because he has a setup where, he's got one of those Amazon devices that you talk to. I don't want to say the word because I've got one over here that'll fire up. But he's got two glass cases with his Gunpla displayed in them, and he says the A word and says, power on. And slowly all of these like LEDs on the glass columns light up, and it's like power level 25%, power level 75%, and then like the whole thing lights up. That would
Dude,
be an amazing if I could set that up here and fire up live shows that way. Oh man.
dude, that's a great idea. I think I'm going to look into that because it's funny, right below that camera of that wide shot is actually my glass cabinet that I have like a lot of my favorites in. And about a couple weeks ago, the lights died. And I'm just like, man, not only do I have to buy the lights, but rewire everything. I could troubleshoot to see if maybe there's a issue
Like a
of a
bird
connection,
fuse or
but
something. Yeah.
it's like, I'll get to that later. But I'm glad you brought that up because I'll look into setting something up where I can just voice command computer,
Oh yeah.
engage lights.
Oh yeah, I've got these lights are all voice controlled, so
No, no, that's pretty awesome. Looking at chat real quick. Neo X, good to see you. Dylan of the Last of the Homies. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Gundam Wing, Brian Zanichelli, Shirt Lad. Good as Shirt Lad is an amazing GBO2 player because he does keyboard mouse and he tends to play the more obscure units people don't play. And he's posted some of his wins. Yeah, in the Discord, it's pretty awesome actually. Ian, our mod, good to see you. Johnny Tacoma. Brian is saying that tomorrow is Sonic's birthday. I just had to bring that up because I'm a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. That it was like, even though I played Atari and Nintendo when I was younger, it was when the Sega Genesis came out that I was like, dude, gaming is badass because of Sonic and everything.
Oh yeah.
But also tomorrow, and I guess this makes sense, is the for the Sonic Origins collection that came out a year ago, so I guess it was on Sonic's birthday, they're adding an update where they're going to include all the Game Gear games of Sonic, which is, yeah, those are classic. Like, funny enough, I played through those myself back in the day. Not all of them. I think they eventually came out with, like, I think on GameCube, a retro collection that had the other ones, and but they're pretty cool. But, in Sonic, there are many mecha. Robotnik has his,
True.
as there is the Metal Sonic and the, yeah, and I forget because I haven't been following Sonic lore for a while, but there's two different mecha Sonics.
Yeah,
There's
two
the-
Metal Sonics,
Yeah.
and I mean, even all of the bad guys that you encounter in the level, they're all just forest creatures that have been crammed inside of
Of a mecha.
Robotnik's creations. So
Oh,
all
they're-
of those are mecha.
Dude, they're people just like the forced pilots that are having to pilot these mecha. Dude, Sonic and Gundam have so much in common. I didn't
you
even
go.
realize.
These rabbit conscripts.
Yeah. No, that's hilarious. But yeah, so we're gonna get into just some unfinished like projects we've had, some hobby projects, because I've been coming across a lot of that. I know you have. The weather recently has brought that up. Like, yeah, that's why I haven't been top coating. And then we're gonna talk about the Gundam Mark IV, because that just got released in GBO2, and that's not a unit I'm familiar with. Again, I love how
an oddball.
Yeah, but that's the thing I love about GBO2 is it's exposed me to the greater UC lore in terms of all these different suits that have existed that I'd never come across, and how the stories connect still. We'll get into that. And then, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the idea is, you know, as we get through the main topics, we'll then do some news at the end. There's some cool news that has come out. But yeah, to get started, just Gundam related things I've gotten into this week. P Bandai delivered the Slegger Law GM, and I don't remember the last time I just quickly opened that thing, built it, did everything.
Now that's not the anime accurate version, right? Because that one has the head attached.
Nice one. No, that is funny. But, you know, speaking of GM heads, the one thing with these Origin GM heads is they have like that extra snout thing going on at the chin. And that makes it take away from like the classic GM look. So it's like, what if I could like switch the heads? You know, not that I need to, but it's more of I like just the classic GM, and I appreciate Origin, but to take, and they actually have it up on pre-order now to get just a Origin GM, just to take it and sand down that snout to make it look more classic GM. And the other thing is the shoulders aren't red on the Origin GM like the original, so all you would have to do is just paint.
But that's exciting. I mean, you know, people have been kind of hankering for high grade GMs for a long time, or at least like a reissue or a remake, a revived version of the GM. So if Origin's the best we're gonna get, then
yeah, and it's really good. Like, I'm gonna do a full review of the Slegger Law. Building it was so fun. Like I said, in a day or two, I built it. Panel line, decals. All I'm doing is waiting for this humidity to go away, and then I'm going to top coat it. That's the one thing, and I don't know how often you come across this. Like, when I have a Gunpla with a lot of decals, later in the day, I'll look at my thumb and be like, is that a decal? And then I'll be like, no, it came off. And even though I'll use the mark setter, I'll do all the things. I think sometimes it just won't adhere that well, and you just have to be careful.
Oh yeah, no,
is that
sure?
Okay, that's happened to you too.
I just top coated my Gundam Mark II. This was probably a week ago, and I had applied some decals to the knees, and I hit it with the top coat. And I look at the knee, and the decal was gone. And I was just like, so it just got blasted off into the abyss, I guess, somewhere. But
and you were recreating.
I had another.
You were recreating the decals from the game, right? Wasn't there like a game? Was it Dynasty Warriors?
It was Gundam versus Zeta Gundam. Has like probably my favorite sort of minimalist decals applied to mobile suits. You know, maybe just a model number here or there. You know, AUG or Xeon crests, things like that. But you know, I'm not a big fan of like the real type markings. I know that you are.
Yep. But as much as I'm a fan of it, I would even say this is maybe a little more than I would do on my own. But I think what is fun for me is when I look at the official P Bandai photo or Bandai photos and I try to make it as accurate to that. Like making the vents on the shoulder red, adding the gunmetal to the Vulcans at the top. You know, I'll have a full review of it. And that's the thing, the build on this, like I was saying, it was easy, yet it was awesome because as you're building it, like the color separation, it's like they have everything in mind for, oh yeah, this piece wouldn't be consistent with this, so it's a completely different thing. That way all the colors look good. And then that brings us back to what we were talking about of like Bandai releasing a new GM, like
Yeah.
they have that 3-pack coming out. That's the GM, GM2, and GM3, but it's just it's not like a revisit. So
Yeah,
that
that's
that
just a reissue of the old ones.
so that tells me they have no plans, or either the Origin is supposed to take its place, or the Origin version, since they're releasing it at retail, will let them know if people want to get, another GM.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, that if people pick up that 3-pack, that would kind of suggest, like, "Hey, people want a GM." They want one bad enough that they're gonna get one of these reissued ones.
yeah, no, that's right. So yeah, another thing is, and this was from your 2 videos that you created. The GM with the LED in there, which is super awesome. Yeah, you had the live stream where you started the project, and then you released a video on Friday where you went into more details, especially with like the magnets and doing it with minis, which I think it really lends itself to the minis. And then your
Yeah.
stream yesterday just blew my mind because it was the idea of having multiple colored LEDs to like do the Hades or the exam or whatever, instead of having to switch the heads or whatever. Like that, I
Yeah.
never thought about that.
I mean, I was inspired by one of my daughter's toys that, like, had it's like
Oh,
the Fisher-Price Linkimals animals
yeah.
that have, like, the multicolored LEDs in their bellies. I was like, "Wait, why don't I just do this with Gundams?" It's
Yeah, that's. And then I guess yeah, you're working on that Pale Rider, which you plan to have that as a Patreon. You have like a custom statue that you're making,
Yeah,
mini.
so the plan will
Yeah.
be to, I did in fact add the recommended thrusters on the back, so there
Oh,
will be
nice,
slots in there for rear LEDs as well, but, yeah, the plan is to have that available, kinda like a mini statuette that, has the channels kind of bored out for you so that you can thread LEDs in there and do that, so,
dude.
um
That's awesome. And that's kind of related. The other thing that I went through this weekend real quick was this chonker here. Um,
it's a big
like
boy.
it's one of these suits where looking at it, it's not like I'd ever be like, oh man, I'd love to be the pilot of like. To me, this doesn't look badass, but it's a good bad guy. Like, it's
Yeah.
monstrous, and I think that's a scary thing for Camille to be fighting. So it's awesome. Building this for as old as it was fun and easy, and it's well proportioned. Has it does require some painting on it. So
Yeah, it
um
does.
I the guide explained what green I would need for the thrusters, but
Mhm.
that type of green is so hard to find online. I only found it at one place, and then I felt bad because I was only just buying one $3 thing of paint from them, and I think it was $10 shipping, and I was like, but you know what, 13, that's worth it for me to have this green that I don't know if I'll need it again, but
It is
I
a very specific green,
yeah
the O,
yeah.
yeah,
And
uh,
that's the thing. I'm a huge, we're huge Zeta fans, and for my
yeah,
diorama, I'm missing some critical things. Like getting the Psycho Gundam was a big deal. I'm glad I got that. The O, I need that. So, and then next after that, I'll probably want to get like a Marasai, a Gap Plant. I do have the Advanced Zeta Gap Plant, but we'll get into unfinished stuff here shortly.
there you go, yeah.
And then anything else that I got into this week that's Gundam related? No, I think that's it. Yeah, just I've been doing more. Yeah, building. I take those little breaks where I don't build and then I build. But what about you?
Well, and you and I have both been bogged down by the weather, so that means no painting,
True.
no top
True.
coating,
Yeah.
so, means you can't do decal work, so the LED work has been, great because
Oh yeah.
it's something we can do indoors, and we don't have to worry about humidity interfering with, what we're doing, but, yeah, I mean, you pretty much already touched on everything I've been working on
LEDs.
with the Pale Rider, the miniatures. I mean, I think you guys have probably all seen it by now, but small little magnetic base here that we've got these Gashapon figures that when they are magnetized in place, they light up.
That is awesome.
So yeah, and then just scaling that up. We've got our Zaku here that I've not quite threaded this wire through yet, but the first wire is through the leg. We're gonna solder a magnet on there, and set up a. I've got a little hanger base that I'm gonna wire up with LEDs as well. You know,
Oh,
we're gonna be
nice.
able to magnet the Zaku on there, and it'll now, like you said, the thing that I need to do is find out if I can put a tiny speaker on there
Oh,
and have,
yeah.
like, the little Zaku mono eye play when the magnets hit. That would be
Ah, I know. But the more I see this, the more it makes me think of when we would have those like tabletop mini discussions on your live streams. You're more into that stuff than I am, but I feel like what you've created there would lend itself well to some sort of mini tabletop game, especially if magnets could
Yeah.
like trigger actions.
I think so too. I mean, would it be too much to ask a board game to deliver that kind of an interactive experience? I've talked a lot about like the Zeta Gundam board game
Yeah.
from the 80s, which it has a lot of gimmicks. It's got like a spinner, it's
Oh,
got the little like it's got like the coded messages where you have to look through like a little red piece of plastic at a
yeah.
squiggly card. It's got minis in it. It's got all kinds of stuff that you use. I'm like, you know, board games have really not gotten much further than just like 3D printed miniatures. So like, why not elevate that even more with like magnets, LEDs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Having an interactive board map like that, I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, just looking at that made me think of like a battlefield, like that would be just full of magnets and you have dice, move the figures around. And then, like, let's say you land on a, a, a tile that doesn't have any magnets in it and it doesn't light up. So, like, you don't attack or the attack misses or something, you know?
Yeah, stuff like that. Well, and
Yeah.
it's technology that exists, right?
Yeah.
Because like we see it with amiibos, like
Oh,
Nintendo
yeah.
has different interactions that can occur
That's true.
using different RFID chips, I guess
Yeah.
is the technology they're using. Um or like I said before with those Linkimals toys for
Oh,
toddlers, it's
yeah.
like, when they're in proximity to each other, they all light up and they all interact with each other, which is
Yeah. And
it's a
that's a
little
kid's.
scary, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
no, but okay. So I think NFC is what the technology, the near field communication,
Yeah.
and it's strange because I have it's almost a 15-year-old DSLR now. It's a Sony and it has NFC. So when I take my photos, I actually can tap my phone onto it and then it will shoot all those photos I just took like right then. So like there was a time where I would help people do professional photography and I would say like I can instantly deliver your photos. Like I would take the pictures and on site NFC it to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's just, and I think that can be utilized so much for other things like amiibos, like you mentioned, but even a Gunpla. Like, just think if you buy
Yeah.
a Gunpla and the feet have a built-in NFC chip, so then like you can tap it on your phone, it adds it to your collection, and it's like a
Well, we
unique
keep talking about,
identifier.
like, the Gundam metaverse, right? Like, and having
That's
these scan in your
yeah,
builds and stuff like that. Well, you've
yeah.
got
You know what? You bring up a good point because it's weird that it's the focus is on scanning it in, but why not just have it where it's an NFC? So then you have like a better 3D proportioned, and you can, based on what you scan in, that shows the different parts you have.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah. Bandai, come on. No, I'm joking. Um, okay. The other thing, yeah. To move on from. Oh, and I'm trying to think if I've been watching anything. I've been trying to finish After War Gundam X,
Yeah.
and I think what's hard about it is it's not a bad show at all. It's actually
No,
very
it's
good. It's
very
just that
inoffensive.
it's not as exactly, but it's just not as exciting moment to moment. So sometimes I'll get bored and then watch something else, but really it is good, and I
Yeah.
think that's. I mean, I wonder if that is the type of story that would do better as a 3-movie trilogy. You know,
I am surprised that that never got, the movie treatment or,
yeah,
some kind of remake or, OVA conversion. Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost every Gundam series has had some kind of translation, like, You know,
Yeah.
obviously the Zeta movie trilogy, the original movie trilogy, there was a Stardust Memory movie.
Yeah, that's right. Oh
Um,
wait, the MS team had that where it was more focused on Shiro,
yeah.
what he did, but it was almost like a recap also.
Or like when they broke the Unicorn OVAs into a
Oh, that's right.
full, you
That's
know,
right.
30-minute episode series. So, you know, it's just not out of the realm of possibility for Gundam X to have gotten a movie trilogy to just to cut down some of the, like you said, it's like filler
Yeah,
fluff. Not
and that's what I've noticed watching it is what it is there will be like a villain of the 4 episode arc where there's like
hmm
a villain that the guys, those main two guys, I forget their names, want to stop the Gundam X, and then that will just be its own contained plot. There might be elements sprinkled in of Garrett, and what's the girl's name? Why am I forgetting her name? Can you remember off the top his girlfriend?
Tifa.
Yeah, exactly. There would be little. Those are the most interesting to me. Like those
Yeah.
little story moments in. But yeah, it is kind of surrounded by what I sometimes call filler, where it's just here's the villain of these 3 episodes, and it's funny because the villain's always like, this is the most dangerous mecha pilot ever, and then it gets killed, and then they get a new one, and they're like, no, this is the most dangerous mecha pilot ever.
It definitely, and thinking about that,
Yeah,
and when I was doing well, I'm still working on the Dissecting Gundam series. I've just
sweet.
switched to a monthly schedule instead of a
Yeah,
weekly one. But um, I don't think that a lot of the modern Gundam entries are as sophisticated as the original because there was almost no wasted time in 0079. Like that you don't have filler episodes.
that's
Now,
true.
some people will call certain episodes filler, and I think that kind of betrays their understanding of the show because there's so many moments like I think that a lot of people would call Kai Shiden's relationship with Miharu like a
Mhm.
filler arc, right? And you're like, well, why do I care about Kai and some civilian girl? This isn't relevant to the main plot of Amuro. And it's like, no, see that is like exploring a whole other element of the greater conflict that's going on, and it's really like
The
kind
characters
of
are caught up in that world. It's
yeah,
like it's like you want to see how Kai and that girl are caught up in the world and the tragedy that happens. Whereas, yeah, there's other times filler is, well, here's just these two characters, what they're saying to each other. They're mad at each other. It's like, okay,
yeah.
yeah, it's a
And,
good point. Yeah.
and after that arc, I mean, Kai's character is fundamentally changed
Yep.
going forward. Whereas, you look at something that is really filler, like in Dragon Ball Z, when you had like Frieza come back, Cyborg Frieza after being killed on Namek, and it's like, oh well, we need to fill this like little space where, Goku's not there yet, but the androids aren't there yet, and so like Trunks comes and just cuts Frieza in half, and it had no bearing on anything going forward. No characters changed. There was no like character development. There was no danger. It was just, hey, Frieza's back. Hey, Trunks cuts him in half, and then now
Ah,
Goku's back.
that's
Like,
interesting because I've watched the Frieza saga before. That was recommended to me back when I was in high school, and I thought that was
yeah,
cool. But I hadn't watched. But you know what? That does um remind me too of like with Kai. He shows up in later UC stories with very small but pivotal roles based
yeah,
on what he went through. So it's like a payoff in the end.
definitely.
It's a real payoff. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, man, that actually opened up a whole bunch of thoughts in my head. But maybe another time we'll talk more about
Yeah,
it. But
we'll button it.
yeah, but no, it's I need to, and that's the thing. Like, I guess we've been talking about a lot of our hobbies, our hobbying this week. Where yeah, I've been building a lot. But
Yeah,
I need to get back to watch some more because I want to finish After War. I want to finish Turn A, and then get to the other more obscure stuff that like Age that people don't really talk about much. That's it.
yeah.
But any other anime have you watched, or do you ever watch just other anime randomly?
No, I like I said, I do want to go back and watch VFam, the
Oh
other,
yeah,
one of the other Tomino mecha
that's
anime that
right.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I was really just drawn to the Robot Spirits, figure because it looks like a kit bash of, like, several Gundam
Yeah,
units.
that is neat. He has those other shows he's done where there's some cool Gundam-esque design going on. And there was in the Discord someone posted this super tragic GIF of like there's this battle in the space station. Everyone's in space suits. You see this rocket
Oh,
fly
no.
by, hit a character, and this little kid turns to look to see, and then the rocket hits the kid in the head, and it's like, whoa. And that's
Ideon is,
Tamino.
Ideon's a different animal, but,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. See, I need to watch that. I think I started that, but
Well,
never.
and even
Yeah.
Ideon is just a giant GM.
Oh, that's awesome.
A giant GM possessed by a god, I guess.
Okay, that sounds pretty neat. And Shirt Lad was like, "Have you reached episode 21's I'm a healer?" But yeah, I think I'm on episode 27 or 28. So it's like I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? And that reminded me. Yeah, because people are talking about filler in there. Sure, let's say Mecha filler better than Shonen filler. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I stopped watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because once it got
Really?
to, I don't know if I'm on season 3 or 4. I think it's like, yeah, maybe 4 or 5. It's where it's just kind of like the characters are just meeting other characters that have powers and then they fight each other. And early on in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it was like a specific story, like how I think his name was Joseph at the time. Yeah, Joseph met Dio, how that whole thing happened, and then when it was
Yeah.
Jonathan, how they were trying to hunt down Dio. Like there was like a main plot, and then I'm now the one with, I think it's Josuke, or the 4th iteration. I don't know, but where they just walk around town and meet people with powers, and it's not like a real overall plot. It's just more of, and this isn't bad because I think it's doing its own thing. It's like, here's a neat power, like the guy that can write. I think, yeah, he's drawing manga and he can see what happens. Oh yeah, on the person, like he can flip them like a page or so. It's weird. But yeah, it's less about the
Might say it's
world.
bizarre.
Yeah, and that's an example of it. I see what you did there. It's less about the world, and it's just more about, here's an interesting character. Here's another interesting
Yeah.
character, and so it's like,
Well, and that was, one of the things, that the creator of Bleach said was like, he didn't have like a story in mind for what to do with all of these. He's just like, I just wanted to draw badass guys with swords. And so like,
yeah,
here's another badass guy with another cool looking sword design that's unrealistic. And like, oh, this one's got ice powers and this one is a cyborg. So,
yeah.
why not have them fight? I don't know. Like,
No, that reminds me of like the show Metalocalypse. I don't know if you watched
yeah.
that. Like, I wanted to watch it because it would have gory or crazy animation and metal music. But then as you get deeper and deeper, there's like this underlying story of like this Illuminati that's trying to do something. And it happens to be that the metal band will be able to change the future. And it's like, oh, there's actually a plot. And, they're coming out with a new movie this August.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're revisiting all of the Adult Swim classics, right? Because Venture Brothers is having a
Oh,
movie come out.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, from what I
catch
understand,
lightning in a jar twice, right?
Brendan Small is the guy that came up with Metalocalypse, and I think what happened was Adult Swim decided to cancel it, and then I think he got the rights back or something. So he's been re-releasing all their new albums. They have a new album coming out and the new movie. So I think what happened was he finally got all the rights back, and he's doing his own thing. I don't know how true all that is, but I know that was the issue for a while. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, good talk there. Yeah, and I wanted to talk about unfinished stuff real quick, and we might have already touched on it, but my main thing is, and we had talked about this before, is I was getting tired of being super detailed with my builds. Like, okay, this needs to be painted. Okay, I'm going to get my airbrush unit out. I'm going to get all the stuff out. I got to do it specific to make it perfect. And so I did that with one of my GMs. The GM turned out awesome, and I had 3 others. I was like, yeah, I'll get to that later. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use Gundam markers. And that did the job. And that made me think, with these unfinished projects, I don't think I necessarily have to do it the best or not even the best, the most what's considered the proest level possible to do it. I think
Yeah.
you can maximize a technique, or master a technique, I should say, maybe, of like the Gundam markers, for instance. Once I learned more about
Hmm.
paint consistency, I realized how I could take advantage of the Gundam markers because they're already made. I mean, the yellows from a Gundam marker are so much better than any yellow paint that I've ever bought, like from a jar
They
to use
really
in a
are.
brush.
Yeah, I mean, what's the old photography saying, right? Is the best camera is the one that you have on you. So,
Oh
like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yes, there are always going to be better tools and better conditions and optimal environments. And this goes for just motivation in general. Sometimes like I've caught myself sitting here thinking, man, I really wish I could find the motivation to start working on our video game again and like,
Oh
write some more
yeah,
of the AI
that's right.
code and stuff like that. And then I'm like, look, if I can't do it when I'm not motivated, then I'm not going to do it ever. So, if you can't paint just because it's wet outside, then when are you ever going to get a chance to paint? Because when it's nice outside, you might not want to paint. You might want to go out and
Outside,
just
yeah,
play in the yard.
yeah.
Like it's a double-edged sword, like riding the wave of conditional, you know, uh, optimal conditions, I guess is the way to put it.
Exactly. And so that was another thing. I have this space type Pale Rider here that I've got the gloss coat, and I started panel lining. And then I started painting, and especially, I don't know how noticeable it is on the back, like the yellow just wasn't looking good. Like I could not get
Mm,
the yellow to really stick on there. And I kind of think I'm using the Gundam marker, or no, this was airbrush paint without it being pre-thinned or anything, but I was using a brush, but it was on top of the gloss. And I think that was a bad combination. And so I feel like if it was
right.
the regular plastic or Gundam marker yellow, and even the whites, I wasn't, and so I just kind of have just had this sitting there without bothering to top coat it. And I might as well just, I'm happy enough with it, top coat it, you know, um,
Yeah.
and and that kind of goes with what you were just saying about like sometimes might need to move on and work on something else, and I think that's okay. Like, yeah, in 5 months, well, start dabbling in this game a little more,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
once you reach to a point where like, because I think you have to, for anybody, anything you're into, there has to be that aha moment where you're like, oh, now I know what I should do with this. Until you get to a point where you're like, I don't know, I'll move to this other thing I like to do because it's fun. I think it's fun. Sometimes people have made fun of me in the past of getting into something and then getting into something else. And then,
Yeah,
but I think that it's healthy. Yeah, I think,
I think so too.
yeah, it allows
I
your
think so too.
mind to sort of learn more from different things. And sometimes you can combine it together. And it's better to keep your interest that way than to be disinterested and then scroll on your phone.
There
So,
you go.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's interesting because like so one of the unfinished projects I've got sitting here, you guys may remember because we were working on it on those live streams was that pre-production Hyzac. And
Oh,
it's interesting now that I think about it, is like I spent all that time boring out the head and like installing that wireless LED unit. And now here we are a couple months later, and I'm like,
oh,
well, I could have just used one of those nano LEDs and wired it up with a
yeah.
battery pack. And it's like
Dude,
e-
just like George Lucas, he came back with the special edition. He's like, now I have the special effects to.
I'm going to have Han Solo step on this stupid tail. Um, But, and then sometimes you screw up like I do. I've been repainting this, Zeta Plus, the Ruluka custom Zeta Plus
Oh,
for
cool.
I don't know how many times I've had to repaint it, but I messed up mixing my white that I was painting, like, several of the large body pieces with. So, like, I've got and this is one of those parts former transformers, so it's like,
Uh,
you've got this chest that is used for the, Wave Rider mode and this chest that's used for the bot mode. And so these are painted because I have the purple, but
yeah.
all of the white parts, the white paint that I mixed up and airbrushed just completely like ran off the sides. It was like way too thin. And so now I've got them sitting in bleach, you know,
Oh, really?
stripping the paint off of them
And
again.
and does
And
that
so
work easy? Does it
yeah,
mess it up at all?
No, no, I highly recommend, you know, if you screw up your Gunpla painting with any type of paint, whether it's enamel, you know, acrylic, whatever type of paint you're using, you know, you don't want to go with like the most aggressive chemicals. So, like, you know, start with maybe isopropyl alcohol, but bleach, I have found, you know, just pure concentrated Clorox, put it in a glass jar, put all the parts that you're trying to strip the paint off of, seal it up and let it sit for about 48 hours, and then it just comes off, like, with a paper towel or, you know, I've used a toothbrush too, just kind of scrub in
Wow.
to get into, like, little creases and crevices. Yeah, and I think it almost kind of pre-treats the plastic for the next coat because I remember stripping the paint off of the torso, and then when I went back to paint it, it, like, looked way better than the first time.
Ah. Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting because I've thought about that. Sometimes I'll put paint on something. I'm like, this didn't work out, and I can't clean it off. I'm making it worse. And then
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
I'm actually kind of, in a way, cutting into the plastic because I've been trying to scrape off, and it's yeah. Well, what would you
Yeah.
say is your number one unfinished project, Gundam related?
Um So I've got 2 probably that so the Zeta Plus is probably my oldest unfinished Gundam project. My most close to completion Gundam project is the Zawu Gundam,
Oh,
which, as you recall, we were working on that on a live stream as well,
yeah.
and I broke the peg that the backpack clips onto. So, I still just need to use a little bit of pla plates to repair the where that backpack mount sits onto.
Ah, okay.
But, I mean, it's already painted, it's already ready to
Yeah.
go. I was gonna apply a couple of decals. I've got some, like, Neo Xeon,
Oh, sweet.
uh, the Char's Neo Xeon, of course, you
Sure,
know?
sure. Yeah.
We don't do any sleeves business over here. But no, I have some decals that I wanted to pop onto it, and it's like 95% of the way there.
That's cool. Yeah, I'd say for me it was the GMs, like I've been meaning to the top coating really is I just need to get to that, but the humidity yeah, and I've got there's also the Gundam Aerial I built, and then my plan was to put the decals on it and top coat it. But to be honest, I've been getting so disinterested in Witch for Mercury in general that I kind of like don't care about it anymore, and I'm wondering if maybe I should just finish it and give it away, or I don't know. Because I think a lot of it is I've been buying decals. Oh, here's another one is the little Mobile Suit Ensemble crossbone. I completely painted it, panel lined it.
Very nice.
Next though are the decals, and I bought the decal sheet for it. Just haven't really got to it. Yeah, because I gotta say, even after doing the decals for the Slicker Law, it's like it's a pain in the ass. Like they're so tiny, and sometimes they don't stick just right. And um, ah, even though it looks good, but I guess and that's the thing. I don't do things as crazy as you in terms of like really involved stuff. Like you have, for instance, you have that diorama that you're gonna do Hong Kong City. With the
Yeah.
Psycho Gundam, which is so you already have the chest lighting up and everything, which is awesome. And it's got me to want to start other stuff like that, to be honest. But so that's why I've been quickly like, okay, I'm going to just finish my GMs so I can start
Yeah.
getting to those dioramas.
Well, and see, so
Oh, there you go.
I've got my O as well, but, you know, one of the things that we've been working on that I have yet to figure out a way to seal up. Whoa, almost lost a Hyzac over here. I have yet to find a good way to seal up these, um,
Oh,
EL wires,
yeah.
in a like, a resin casing or inside of a beam saber. I think that this is like the ideal solution for, you know, lit up beam sabers or even funnel effect parts. I've got
Oh,
the
yeah.
Cubile still sitting over there, and she's lit up. We just need to get the beam sabers for the O lit up. The Hyaku Shiki's already has its arm cut off. I've
Oh,
got
nice.
everything for the colony laser
Oh,
diorama
yeah,
is
that's right.
like
You
ready
got
to
the
go.
Voss
If I can
water.
just figure out
That's
Yeah, the
awesome.
Voss water bottles. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's
I'm gonna
and
be
that
keeping my eye on that one because I'm gonna try to replicate what you do there. Yeah.
that's been one of my, like, dream projects for the longest time, and, so yeah, shout out to, Leaping Panda Hobbies for making the O happen for me because I could not find one for, like, less than $60 and, like
Yeah, that's what was crazy for me finding it. I mean, there's a local place that has it. They're just kind of overpriced, but Barnes and Noble, $30. I was like, what? And it was just randomly sitting on a shelf next to like Pokemon stuff. I was like, I'm gonna grab this.
yeah.
No, but no, that's cool. And you know, like always, I mean, yes, I am on your live streams, but it also helps me with the hobby stuff. So anyone that doesn't check out his stuff, that's the best way to get it's the best way to get a understanding or a handle on some of the easiest ways to just up the custom game just a little bit, and it
Yeah,
makes a difference. Yeah, I can't
it
wait to
does. I mean,
finish.
that GM looks awesome when you have that thing lit up,
Yeah,
and the fact that it lights up both like, the sensor on top and the
I
visor.
know that was pretty neat. Because I was thinking, would I need multiples? But yeah, my plan is, you know, I have a whole bunch up above me. I'm gonna light them all up. I was gonna do it to the Gundam. My RX-78 I have is the Origin version. I have the other
Right.
ones, but the Origin one, the head is too small, and the way the joint is, I'd have to maybe do it differently, where it's like in the back of the head, and so I'll think
Yeah.
about that. But okay, yeah. Anyway, I think what I was trying to say is watch Steven's streams if you haven't, because that stuff has really helped me. Okay, next up. And then okay, yeah, I think I have that view for you. So just real quick, GBO2, you know, and honestly, I've been mainly playing on PC, so I haven't been keeping up to date in terms of playing on PlayStation, because PlayStation gets the releases first, and then it's 8 weeks later that it's like, yeah, an 8-week difference or so. But they have this Gundam Mark IV, and it's a 600 general, pretty cool. You know, and it's neat about GBO2s, they'll come up with these suits that I haven't really heard of before. You know, and I looked it
No
up.
one would blame you for not knowing what the Gundam Mark IV is because that is a deep cut if
Yeah.
there ever was one.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at it, and you know, it came from an SD Gundam game, but it's still in universe. In fact, you know, I did that video recently on like what the naming conventions of suits are, and that ORX is in relation to the Augusta base where this was built. So I like how they're taking sort of background information that's not necessarily in all the shows, but it's like in side material, especially like the video games.
Yeah.
And so this was developed from the Mark III, which was very Zeta-like. And I guess, but what's interesting about this Mark IV is it almost looks like a GPO2, but it still has the Zeta chin to it. But also it has sort of like what is it? The Engage, the UC Engage, that new suit from Engage, that kind of look where there's kind of curvature to it, because this isn't then long after that project. So there's a bunch of different Gundam development projects that then we're seeing with this design. Let's see. Yeah, using data from the Mark III, Augusta, Research Institute, a backroom deal with Anaheim Electronics. And it was interesting because it seemed like they were wanting to build these for the Titans, but I guess people within Anaheim became AUG sympathizers. But I find that interesting because I would think they would want to side with the Titans, you know, just because, oh yeah, more war, sure. But I wonder if it became more of, oh, the Titans would just take over Anaheim. You know what I mean? That was the threat.
Well, and Anaheim was always dealing to both sides. You know, they didn't care as long as you had a check to pay them, right? That's
well, yeah, and so that's why I would think, why would they be a sympathizer to one or another? But
right.
I'm assuming maybe there's more information on this, that like the Titans were kind of a threat to Anaheim because the Titans wanted to start maybe taking things in house to build, and maybe Anaheim was thinking, oh, we would just be dissolved or something. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look up and see if there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, the threat of government takeover of a business is always ever present.
Yeah. And this one had the quasi Saikamu system, so a non-new type would be able to pilot it, and it has the wire guided incoms. So this is just a classic next step Gundam. You know, and something we were just talking about before is how we see that in 0079 they come out with the the RX-78-2. And then after that, it's just variations of that. And it wasn't until 87, whenever Zeta takes place, that then there's the Mark II. And then quickly, Mark III, Mark IV, Mark V, and
they cranked them out.
Yeah, and I guess it went from just variations on it to, we'll just do all new versions, because it's interesting that when the Mark III comes out, it looks like the Zeta. So it could be they had the Mark II, and then the Zeta was made, and then they're like, okay, well, then the next Gundam would look like the Zeta, and then I guess that just kind of went away a little bit with the Mark. I mean, yeah, it's just, I find that a very interesting evolutionary branch. I'll have to look more into that. But
yeah,
but then it after the Mark V, this is where then it got the Dovenwolf design, which is interesting because it's almost like it went back with like the silver bullet suppressor, I think it is, where it's like a Dovenwolf with the Gundam head.
Yeah.
So it was like the Dovenwolf is based off a Gundam, but then they used the Dovenwolf to make another Gundam. So it really just shows how far that lineage of Gundam, went. Throughout. Yeah, because even, this Mark V was first seen in 88. So that's still kind of early. Let's see. And then after that, I guess that's where it stopped. The Mark V, there's not a Mark VI. What's that?
No, I don't believe there's a Mark VI.
Not a Mark VI. So yeah, after that, it's Dovenwolf. And then other things like, a Gundam Unicorn, because like, the Gundam Unicorn looks just like a Gundam, like what you would think classical Gundam. And I would even say something like the F-91 doesn't. The F-91 has a V-fin, but it has its own look to it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as UC is concerned, the Unicorn is kind of like the last Gundam-y Gundam, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly, because Penelope and Kasai.
The last of that lineage.
Yeah. Which makes sense, because that's also the same time where they were like wanting to kind of take out new types, hide the new type thing. So it's almost like by hiding what a classic Gundam looks like, you're hiding that whole history, And that's another video I want to do. I think I brought it up for a second in my previous video about the Jesta and Jagan, where they were actively trying to hide the new type thing going on. And, oh man, that gave me an idea. Like, what if there was a Star Wars movie that took place in the far future where, like, Jedi or Sith were killed out and there's nothing of that anymore? And then there's, like, this myth that people can have these force powers. But then they start developing mechs. And then people with force powers were able to pilot these mechs, like combine Gundam and Star Wars. I don't know. I'll write that later.
You sound like you never watched Parks and Rec, did you? Where Patton Oswalt does his speech.
I saw that speech. That was hilarious.
Mandalorian hand of Boba Fett climbed out of the Sarlacc pit, and that's how the Star Trek and the Marvel universes come together. Because who wouldn't want to see that fight?
No, that was great. Like, that's one of the coolest, like, sci-fi, like, nerd pop culture things that happened. Like, that was a great one. Okay, well, yeah, that was, there's not much on that that Mark IV, just that it's in GBO2 and it looks cool.
And you know what? It's very fitting that it came out for GBO2, because we got the Siskaday, which is another G generation exclusive. Started as an SD, and now it's a fully realized Gundam. Yeah.
So I mean, they could really grab anything that has been brought up, and they tend to bring up things that are relevant to the canon.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't anticipate that
yeah,
they're gonna bring in, like, the Phoenix Gundam
right,
or, any of
exactly.
that stuff, but
Yeah, yeah, no, that's cool. Okay, and so with this, the last 10 minutes, I wanted to jump into some news real quick. Like for instance, on P Bandai, they've got the this Lido Wolf's GM Sniper 2, which looks awesome. Now, I don't know if I know the character Lido Wolf. Do you happen to know?
no, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, let's see if we can look that up. I love the colors. These colors are better than the. Wait a minute. Did they not fully paint that chest piece right there? I don't know if everyone could see that. Not that they need to, but it makes me feel better about my work.
There you go.
Let
Well,
me.
it always makes me happy when I see, like, some nub marks on,
Yeah, exactly. On a professional photo of a kit. But okay, yeah, Lido Wolf. Oh, he died December of 0079. So yeah, he was part of that classic group. Just a Gundam Legacy mobile suit variation, so nothing too prominent, but still very cool.
what, did Johnny Ridden kill him?
I wonder. He was the third highest ranking Federation ace behind Amuro and Teneth Jung. Another mobile suit. Okay, that's a whole other video. Let's see, a Gundam Legacy. I'll have to look into that a little more. But that's kind of cool to have something that obscure. I mean, because it looks awesome. Here's one thing I'm really interested in, but kind of scared about. So I pre-ordered that Stutzer Zaku 2, and in the photograph of it, it had a whole bunch of other badass looking Zakus. The thing is, the price, it's like 95, but it comes with
accessories.
Yeah, that's the thing. It comes with some pretty obscure accessories that are not with any other kit at all, or any other robot spirits. I mean, it does have that Goof shield Gatling, but it has this backpack thing, and we're probably paying for that limited run of an exclusive like accessory thing that.
Yeah.
So like I'm debating, because again, sometimes I'll go on Ami and see things for sale that are used that are good condition and good price.
Yeah.
It's just, I love, more and more I appreciate Zaku 2s, especially having an army of them and having them with all different accessories and stuff, armaments.
Yeah. Different loadouts and this is an interesting one because it's the F2 model, so it's like the last production model Zaku 2.
Yeah.
But it's loaded out with like goof paraphernalia.
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to be also like the Stardust memory. Like, isn't that Stardust memory was all about that F2 Zaku, if I'm not mistaken? And it says Ver anime. That's like, well, what anime? But and then the Johnny Ridden. Speaking of him, they have his Gelgoog up for pre-order.
There you go.
Closes November 2nd. So if you want to be able to get this, I mean, they're giving you the time to get it. So yeah, cool stuff. Even that getting that master grade of Resin Schneider's Kiridoga, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know more than a few people that are excited about that kit because
November 2nd.
There's some Resin Schneider stands here in the chat.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, perfect amount of time. If you want this, it's going to be up for pre-order until November 2nd. So show P Bandai that you want stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing, and someone brought this up in chat, is so they do have apparently the release of a release date for the Gundam Seed film. I know I've heard that a lot, and nothing ever happens. And the only reason I am actually interested in this is because I really enjoyed Destiny. So if they're gonna evolve from what they did with Destiny in terms of kind of how they do the world building, but really badass action scenes. I mean, my favorite scene in all of Seed is in Destiny, and it's when Kira has to go destroy that Logengrin gun or whatever it's called, and he's like in his components flying through the cave system, scraping against the walls, and then he gets out and he just murders people, mobile suits, with his knife. And there's like even a spider Gundam running around there. Yeah, it would be very interesting to see how this turns out. I have no idea. I have no idea how it will be.
Maybe we'll finally get some character development for Kira. Who knows?
That would be cool if he's featured in it prominently. I don't know if they've said there's been kind of a story or synopsis to it, but I mean, that would be really cool. And then another piece of news is in Gundam Evolution, they have announced the season 5 with the Susanoo from Gundam 00. Not too familiar with that. A couple things of note. IGN Africa was the article. You know, in the little Bandai circle I'm in, it was never mentioned. I really feel like this game is on its last legs.
Well, and you and I had a conversation the other day about, like, you know, esports being kind of like esports
you can't force
is such
it.
a weird space.
Yeah, you can't force esports.
Yeah, you know, and there's so many people that it's like they try to craft a game, you know, specifically tailored for esports, and it's like, especially with a game like Gundam Evolution, you know, you see where the appeal is from a gameplay standpoint, but for to use the Gundam IP for that seems kind of strange, because I don't know if there's a huge overlap of Gundam fans and esports people.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's interesting that you bring it up in that way, because it is almost like people that are not into esports are going to shy away from games that are being prominently focused to be an esports thing. It's like, oh, well, I'm not that good, so I'm not going to join, or I'm not going to play.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get less people wanting to play, and you know, I mean, even GBO2 is doing better numbers than Evolution right now, which is pretty crazy. And that's the thing; it's not a bad game. It's fun. It's just they probably want to. One, I do think it lacks content. I do believe so. You know, they did add that new mode. And that's the thing. The new mode is cool, and the content they add is cool. But I think it's kind of few and far between, considering that the IP isn't its thing. Like, what would you say is this game's thing? It's nothing. They were trying to make it the esports angle.
Yeah, well, and you can tell just from the influencers they pursued to play the game, right? You know, like you're going to get like Moist Critical to play the game so that other people are going to play it, but then it's like no one's going to.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know. It was a strange marketing tactic for what would otherwise be just another awesome entry in Gundam gaming. Because you and I have talked about this before, where it's like, you know, Gundam Battle Alliance, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Not everybody's cup of tea, but you know, it's just another Gundam game on the market with lots of content. You know, there's a lot of grinding that you can do in it. I mean, it is a fun game in and of itself. And you know, some Gundam fans are going to love it, so others won't, and that's fine, because you've got GBO2, you've got Gundam Evolution. There's other options out there. The marketing around Gundam Evolution was just strange.
Yeah, no, that's true. And you know, it's kind of a sad thing, because I still think Gundam Evolution's worthy of being a game. Like, for games that come out, sometimes they are total crap, buggy as crap. Like, this game was a fun game. It's just not my thing. And you know, I wonder how important it is for Gundam to tie in their games with things outside of gaming. You know, like GBO2, they release kits or robot spirits of the suits as they get released. I don't know.
And that was one of the things that, like, the Marvel Avengers game did, is they would release skins with Disney Plus shows, and like, you know, there was a coordinated effort around everything that they were doing. But I think that probably The Witch from Mercury put a wrinkle in that, because, well, you know, it's like, why didn't we get any Witch from Mercury?
Okay, see, I think you're going down the right path here. I think what it would have helped if they maybe just made it a Witch from Mercury dueling game. where it's just all the suits from Witch from Mercury, and it's you're in the school and you're dueling. I think that would be more interesting to people than it's like, well, there's just a bunch of Gundam suits and it's playing like Overwatch, and it's like, well, I can't really connect that together. And when the skins that come out are just like, here's a gold pattern, and it's like, well,
you know, it's funny you mention that because I was just recently watching like one of those GDC presentations from a game publisher, and he was talking about like things that he doesn't want to hear at your game pitch. Like the title of the video is "Your Game Pitch Sucks" or 30 Reasons Why Your Game Pitch Sucks. And one of the things he mentions is, you know, don't have a themed wrapper around your game where it's like, don't dress your game up as like oh, well, it's quirky because it's a game show. It's like, you don't if the game show is not like part of the game, then just get rid of it. Like it's you don't need to like create this shell around the story of your game, you know, just to excuse some weird you know, some weird quirk about it, right? Like Dynasty Warriors Gundam does a good job of this because it's like they have a story that is, you know, it's not like, oh, we're plucking Gundams from every universe and we're gonna, you know, have them fight together in this game show universe. It's like, no, I mean, there's a temporal disturbance that's pulling all of these different universes together, and it turns out to be the Musha Gundam. Spoiler alert.
But well, yeah, even playing Reborn, or with that latest Dynasty Warriors, like even I was just playing the UC timeline, but what was cool about it was actively giving the story, and you could choose to play it to make the story different. And I think that even though it was just Dynasty Warriors, I think Witch from Mercury, you know, and then the game would probably have more stuff like that. Because, I guess it's almost empty and void, where it's just, here's just a collection of mobile suits. Even Overwatch has a story. Yeah. Like, itself. Yeah, very, very...
And going back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, you know, the creator of Bleach just creating cool guys with swords. Look at, like, Street Fighter. Like, Street Fighter, when they made all these individual characters, they didn't have a story in mind. It was like, I just want to make sure that I've got like a karate guy, I've got a boxer,
I got a monster,
I've got, you know, a monster. You know, we just want a bunch of crazy characters that can fight, and then they develop the story afterwards. I'm sure it was the same deal with Overwatch, where it's like, well, you know, we've got a cowboy, we've got a you know, policeman from the future, we've got a mecha pilot,
but and, they made a story.
But we'll you know, create a story for them to be existing in the same universe afterwards. You know. What's like you said, what's strange about Gundam Evolution is it's like, why are all of these mobile suits just here? Like, and you can tell that they wanted it to catch on as an esport, and they didn't care about having a story because it's like, because esports guys don't care about story. I mean,
well, you know what, you bring up a really good point, because it almost seems like story doesn't matter, but I think inherently, subconsciously, I think it does. You know, like, that's why Sony was able to bank on making those narrative-driven games, and they work. But they leaned so far into that they forgot about their gameplay-driven games. So, like, even, like, the Star Wars, like, people want, subconsciously, they want to, part of playing a game is an escape in a virtual world. You want that story to be a part of it. So
you want to be immersed in the universe. And
cool. Well, good discussion. We're at time. That was a great show, guys. Thanks to everyone that joined and keeping the chat lively. Tons of fun. So, well, I'll try to do
paint some Gunpla.
What's that?
I said, go paint some Gunpla.
Yeah, and as soon as like it's raining right now, like I just cannot wait for this to be gone so I can top coat Slugger Law and do my little review of them. But if anyone wants tips like that, check out Steven's channel, link below. He goes into that stuff. It's teaching me everything. So, and then expect, this format moving forward where I'll try to visit news by the end. So kind of keep everyone up to date with what's going on. Even if it's like something I'm not super into, I think it might be worth just bringing up just to talk about. But
for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll talk later.
Cheers.